Hey everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. I'm your average guy, John Corelli, and I'm here to talk about my past year, actually 13 months, in the comedy world and how it is a fucking roller coaster. It is really just a very tough journey to navigate and even tougher to be successful in. You know, I've done this for about 15 years, very sporadically. Started in January of 2009, so 15 years. First time I ever did it was at the Comedy Works. I did a 2-minute set at Comedy Works for new people. I didn't do that great. Luckily, they were a very kind crowd. It was stock show time, so it was about 300 people. The place was sold out, so that was crazy. But you get a hankering for it, man. You get the taste, and you get some laughs, and you feel a little popular, and you feel like you're creative. There's a lot of good things that come with comedy. There are a lot of bad things that come with comedy. People get on drugs. They sometimes get a little full of themselves. Sometimes they're just plain assholes. And I was thinking about it because at 41, that's a very late age to get into comedy when I started. And I had 2 kids at the time. You know, one, Logan was 4 or 5. Logan was 4, and Dante was about to turn 11. And so, you know, and Dante, as you guys may or may not know, has autism, and and Logan's barely past toddler age, and so I'm navigating being a dad, which is very important to me, and I also have this new kind of passion. And having said that, any household names you know in the comedy world, most likely have been in anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 years. You know, guys I work with, pros that I work with have been doing it 30 years, and you don't know who the hell they are. You might, but they're not a household name by any means. They make their money doing comedy, or at least a good portion of their money doing comedy, but they may need to do other things to support their lifestyle. And that was something, a decision I made early on. I didn't want to spend time away from my family. The family took precedence over everything else. I did comedy when I had some spare time. Tried to write, tried to get good at it. Sometimes I did great, sometimes I didn't. But I did find out that a lot of comedians are not great family people. Some of them are, but a lot of them are just, especially the men, because it's still a male-dominated genre for entertainment. A lot of the men bailed on their kids and went to chase their dreams, and their kids ended up kind of not great because they needed a dad, and dad was out hitting open mics and doing comedy instead. That's not necessarily the rule, but nor is it the exception. That's somewhere in between, I think. A lot of people that chase their dreams, whether it's in entertainment or in a scholarly world or a career path, they will kind of put their family on the back burner, and often you pay for that. So I'm glad that I've made being a dad my priority. I screwed up a couple of years later and cheated on my wife, but I'm not here to talk about that today. What I'm here to talk about is my last, like I said at the top, 13 months in comedy. It's been a roller coaster, like I said. I've had really good sets, and I've had terrible sets. And I was traveling with a couple of guys. One is named Alan Goodwin, and the other is named David Testro. And I was opening for them. And we would go to places that you've probably never heard of, like Rexburg, Idaho, or, Farmington, New Mexico, and places that have either casinos or theaters, and they do comedy shows. And I would do 30 minutes, and then the 2 guys that headlined would do an hour, and we've had a lot of fun. And it's just a world that people don't understand. Like, you see the Louis C.K.'s and the Kevin Harts and the Chris Rocks of the world, and you have no idea, no idea of the amount. Their writing talent, for the most part, is amazing. Chris Rock and Patton Oswalt and Doug Stanhope and Joe Rogan and all these people, I'm naming people mostly my age, have written shows and screenplays that you will never hear of. They have written their asses off. And then they wrote jokes as well, and made a routine, and then got it up to an hour, and then hopefully got it on a place like HBO or did road comedy with it. But it's an unbelievable amount of work and talent that it takes to get to their level, for the most part. Very few people are lucky, very few people hit that in a year or two. You're generally going to be in 5, 10, like I said, 20, 30 years. I've been doing it 15, and no one knows who the hell I am, but I'm fine with that, because like I mentioned earlier, the family came first. But these past 13 months have been interesting. So back December of 2022, I rode up with Alan Goodwin. That's another thing. The road. It's 11 hours there and 11 hours back to go to Rexburg from Denver. Rexburg, by the way, is a 97% Mormon, the reddest voting town in the entire country. And it's a dry county, so you can't even count on these people to get a little tipsy to make you funnier. And I had to do clean comedy. And I did all right. I did pretty well. And Alan and I got along really well. That's another important thing you don't think about, is not only do you have to be funny, you have to be a good travel partner. Because we did a total of 22, 23 hours on the road. You can't be an asshole. You know, you gotta be a good travel partner. And so that's one thing I brought. And sometimes I brought the funny. But the last few gigs I did with either David or Alan, I didn't do that well. I did a couple casinos in New Mexico, one in Mescalero and the other in Farmington. Didn't do that great. And, you know, and you're only as good as your last set. I probably won't get offers anymore from the comedy companies I'm with because I didn't do that great. And it's okay for David and Alan to say, hey, you didn't do that great. And if they want to take another chance on me, great. But if not, it's fine too. That's another thing people don't know about. There are tiny little comedy companies all over this country that set up corporate events or places, and like I said, in casinos, little casinos that you've never heard of, not Vegas, you know, little theaters like the one we did in Rexburg. People want to see comedy. They want to see something different once in a while. It's maybe something different from music or a play or whatever, and we try to provide that entertainment. And so I became part of a couple small comedy companies, and they say, hey, I got a gig out, and literally got this one like last week, Wahoo, Nebraska. Wahoo! And it's on the eastern side of Nebraska, and I'm in Denver, so it's 7 to 7.5 hour drive one way. So let's call it 15 hours round trip. I get $125 to do 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, which sounds great on an hourly rate until you realize that, A, I don't get a hotel. So I'm either going to have to find a place to sleep in January in Nebraska, or I don't know how it's going to work out, but I didn't do it. I passed. At first I wanted to do it. You know, I wanted the gig and I wanted to be in good standing with the company, but then I'm like, no, it's not that my entire day is shot. The entire weekend shot. If you're doing 15 hours of driving, you know, and maybe spending the night somewhere, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. So this has been my journey the last 13 months. Getting gigs, not always succeeding. Some of you may know from the past that I ran a show in Elbert, Colorado, which is in the middle of cattle country. It's Trump country. The people that own the bar are very nice people, and they hired me to do this a few years ago, and then it just wasn't doing well enough. We weren't bringing enough people in, so we had to stop that too. Those are other things you don't know. People run open mics. People like me that have run several mics, have hosted countless hours, and then you never hear of them, you know. And it's like painters, right? It's like any art, or even athletes. Think of the athletes you knew in high school. Think of how amazing some of those guys were, guys that dominated. We had a guy at my school in Jefferson. His name was Dave Howard. He was the 4th leading rusher in the state that year. He was huge. Everyone's like, maybe he could make it. No, he barely made it into college. These are the people you don't hear about. And I'm the barely made it into college out of comedians, maybe. I don't know. I certainly wasn't the 4th leading comedian at anything. But I love it. I love the writing aspect, and it's opened up other writing avenues for me. I'm working on a graphic novel right now. I'm not that great of a drawer or an artist, but I have a great story, and I'm just trying to put it to paper and see if I can work it out. It's one of my passions that I'm going to work on this year. It is about a friend I grew up with who was mixed race. He was half black, half white, and he became a skinhead. I'm not that creative to write that, but through knowing him, through him being one of my best friends, 4th through 9th grade, I was able to, and know him a little bit as an adult too, I was able to put up enough stories that I could write a comic book and maybe turn it into a screenplay. I don't know. But those are the dreams that like, little average guys like me have that you never see. And we're not necessarily, you know, roadkill on the road of life, but we are, you know, we're everywhere. I guess in the end, I'm trying to say just be kind to people. Because you never know what they've been through, whether it's injuries, whether it's terrible parents, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's just the grind of everyday life being super difficult. Try to proceed with kindness, because there may be a really shitty comedian that hasn't had a good day. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. It's been good to bring you another Average Guy opinion, and I'll talk to you next time. Be safe, be well, be happy.